Good evening, televiewers. Welcome to today's edition of Prime R on my media Prime. This evening, we are going to be looking at the reaction by 5 diplomatic representatives based in Yaounde, that of Norway, the UK, Canada, Switzerland, and the United States of America, who issued a joint statement on the issue of the right of education to the children living in the southwest and northwest regions. We are going to be asking why this statement now, what could possibly have ignited or, yes, moved them to issue this joint statement. If time permits, we also are going to be looking at the steady increase in prices of basic commodities in our market. What is happening? Is there no way that the government can control what is happening in our market? Because I remember in either November or December, we had the program here. So what is happening in our market? Are our mothers really comfortable? Are they ready to take further price hikes of basic commodities, especially when it comes to bread? It is becoming the more very worrying. We are discussing these two topics this evening with our panelists who are in the house already. Our consultant, Apostle Ambe Valentine is in the house with us. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, Cameroonians, and good evening, my co-panelists. It's a joy to be here. Yesterday we had a heated debate, and I'm here again today, fresh, strong, hale, and hearty. Stay glued to your screen.
Dr. Simo Marcelle is also in the house. She's been away for some time. She's representing the CPDM party on this platform. Good evening and welcome, Doctor.
Bonsoir, Monsieur Léo. Bonsoir aux co-panélistes. Bonsoir à vos milliers de téléspectateurs. C'est un plaisir d'être là, de revenir dans votre maison qui m'a manqué un tout petit peu, il faut le dire. Donc c'est un plaisir d'être là et espérons vivement que nous essayons d'apporter une petite contribution aux différentes thématiques que vous aviez pu bien choisir.
Okay, pour construire la nation. Okay, we are also in the company of the Secretary General of the Popular Action Party, Mr. Fabrice Lena is in the house with us. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening to Apostle Ambe. Good evening to Dr. Simo, to Mr. Dimancho, to all those watching my Media Prime TV. Good evening to you guys watching from Bonaberry. Special good evening to Bana Ivo Sama, to Wala, to Jones. I know you guys are watching live. We hope that you are going to give me your feedback. To all the militants of Popular Action Party throughout Cameroon, good evening to you all. Good evening to Njang Denis Tabe. Thank you very much, Mr. Leo, for having me as your guest this evening. I am delighted.
Dr. Michael Dimancho is in the house with us. He is a lecturer in some of our universities across Cameroon. We are glad to have you, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leo. It's a pleasure to be here. And special greetings to all the civil society organizations who honestly work for the progress for change, meaningful change in our country, Cameroon.
Okay. I'll start with you. Apostle Ambe Valentine, you certainly saw the joint statement by these representatives of diplomatic missions to Cameroon based in Yaounde. What came to your mind?
I was excited. I had a mixed feeling.
Okay.
Excited on the one hand, but not comfortable on the other hand. You know, education as enshrined in the UNESCO Constitution is a fundamental right of every child. And a lot of factors influence the lack of education in particular locations in the world. There's a cultural aspect, there's the economic aspect, there's a social aspect. That of Cameroon particularly is a social challenge that has been rocking the north and the southwest for the past years. My worry is these people who came to Yaounde are very reputable nations in the world. They have the wherewithal and the capacity to restore peace and serenity, which is a foundation for education. Because without serenity and calmness, children cannot have a comfortable atmosphere to study. It's not unfortunate that we keep talking on roundtables every day and actions are not taken. it is a good idea, a good initiative. They sat down that children should be given back their rights, which is very correct. And we have been singing that on different platforms. And among all the other bodies in the world, like the US Congress, the US Senate, the Norway Refugee Commission that spoke about the crisis in the Cameroon, most of them lay emphasis on children's education. We as Cameroonians, parents, and other countries have spoken a lot about the education. I wasn't expecting these countries to come and sit to deliberate again. I was expecting them to come and sit down and take actions on how to restore the right of education in the Northwest and the Southwest. And I think the situation that is causing the lack of education in the North and the Southwest is not a situation that is a cultural or some kind of economic, but it is practically a social challenge, which needs a lot of factors to be put in place, because we cannot restore education and serenity in the Northwest until some level of negotiations have taken place, as well as peace crusades carried out in that region of the country to restore serenity for children and freely go back to school. We've seen children die for going to school. We've seen children being maimed from going to school. We see children being naked from going to school. As a result of all this, it has instilled fear in the hearts of children, teachers, as well as government officials who are working in those respective regions of the country. What do we do to bring back this, to take away, first and foremost, the fear from the hearts of the people? Secondly, to restore the joy of education, because that joy has been stolen away from the hearts of our children. What do we do to restore? And then what kind of procedures are we going to enforce to make sure that peace reigns in this environment for education or activities concerning education to go back into action? I think sitting down there in Yaounde and talking about it is not something new. What we're expecting right now is actions to be put in place to make sure that education is restored in the Northwest and the Southwest specifically, because that is a fundamental right enshrined in the Constitution of UNESCO for the children of all over the world.
Okay, Dr. Simo, you have been waiting for these diplomatic bodies in Yaounde to react. Are they reacting late, or it was just timely? This was the time for them to talk.
Oui, c'est important, mais on ne va pas simplement se limiter au time to talk. Je suis très ravie que le premier intervenant ait insisté là-dessus, parce que lorsqu'on parle de retour à l'école, il faudrait déjà qu'on sache que c'est le droit le plus basique, le fondamental, le plus important pour tout enfant, pour tout être humain qui se construit, l'accès à l'éducation. Et je crois, ça, personne ne va dire le contraire ici, que l'État du Cameroun a mis tous les moyens pour que ces enfants aillent à l'école, déjà en construisant des écoles, en mettant sur pied un ensemble de programmes, en ayant des rapports ou alors des accords avec certaines institutions gouvernementales pour pouvoir accompagner les enseignants comme l'État du Cameroun dans le processus de l'enseignement-apprentissage. Mais malheureusement, il y a un contexte qui est mis en exergue et qui ne devrait pas être ignoré. Donc lorsqu'on voit les représentants américains ou Canadiens, merci, souligner avec insistance sur le retour à l'école, ça donne l'impression que l'État en place ne le fait pas suffisamment bien. Je crois que maintenant, il est temps que les uns et les autres, que chacun comprenne la nécessité ou alors le temps que nous avions perdu. Parce que nous sommes, voici 5 ans pratiquement que ça dure, ça fait 5 ans que les enfants ont été humiliés, les enfants ont été tués dans les écoles, il y en a qui ont insisté pour y aller. C'est vrai que le contexte commence à être un peu plus acceptable, mais on observe encore des dérives, des comportements qui ne peuvent pas, n'est-ce pas, qui ne témoignent pas de l'humanité, qui devraient être bannis, éteints, et qui devraient en même temps rassurer les populations, les parents, que nous sommes à envoyer davantage nos enfants dans les espaces beaucoup plus reculés. Mais malheureusement, on a des écoles qui sont brûlées, on a ceux qui essayent d'y aller, qui sont arrachés ou alors arrêtés en coup de route, déshabillés, humiliés, ce qui suscite un peu du recul chez les parents et amène nos enfants malheureusement à ne pas jouir de ce droit basique qu'est l'éducation. ben, ce qu'il faut déjà retenir, et ça on devrait être d'accord là-dessus, c'est que l'État du Cameroun continue à tendre la main, continue à demander aux uns aux autres de ne pas empêcher. Je crois qu'il y a beaucoup de concepts qui ont été développés par rapport à cette rentrée. Par exemple, on parlait de l'opération Back to School qui avait été mise sur pied. Ça avait pratiquement commencé jusqu'à ce qu'on commence à attraper les enfants dans les écoles, les déshabiller. Et donc je crois que tout le monde sait l'importance de l'école dans la vie d'un individu, l'importance de l'école dans l'existence même de l'être. Et je crois qu'à un moment ou un autre, quelles que soient les revendications que nous voulons faire, il est temps qu'on s'arrête un tout petit peu et dise on ne devrait pas empêcher à nos frères, à nos sœurs, à nos enfants de jouir de ce droit extrêmement basique. C'est très important.
Okay, extrêmement basic. Now, what is different with this statement by these Yaounde-based diplomatic representatives? Is it not similar to what we have had severally from the European Parliament, from the US Senate, and a host of others? What is different with this one?
Well, I think, Mr. Leo, it's first of all good and important for us Cameroonians to appreciate the efforts of the different representatives of diplomatic missions in Yaounde. It's good, we should recognize their own effort in trying to help us solve our problem, because they are simply helping us solve our problem. You remember the government of Cameroon, as well as stakeholders in Cameroon, will always want to remind you or remind us or remind Cameroonians about the sovereignty of the nations and the limitation of the ability of representatives of diplomatic missions to intervene, interfere, or have something to do with issues that it's about Cameroon's policies, which education is one of it. But given that Cameroon teach in different primary, secondary, and higher institute of learning or state universities in the 13 divisions of Northwest and Southwest. And this is where the problem began. And the government's reaction made the people to say that until there is a cleanup in the education sector, we are not going to succumb to the adulterated education system that is producing students that are unable to fulfill their dreams, or producing or non-respect of a subsystem that is functioning in the country. So at one point in time, in as much as we are saying that we need action, the main protagonist for action here is the government and not diplomatic missions. Representatives of diplomatic missions are just partners of Cameroon who just have that ability to propose things they see which is in line with conventions that Cameroon have ratified, and not the ones to implement it on ground. Those to implement these things are Cameroonian citizens in compliance with their government. But if their government are not helping them to do such or carry these policies, that is where the problem lies. So what first made the schools to be stopped? How far have the government gone to address the issue of the school? Is it satisfactory enough? If not satisfactory, why is it that it's still continuing? It's true that we of the Popular Action Party, we condemn every action of attack on schools, attack of children, attack, and we always say it openly that we do not condone with actions against boycott of school, because that is fundamental right of every child, which school have first of all collective interests of the society, grooming and nurturing an educated generation of people, and it also have the personal interest of maybe someone who will attain his academic dreams of going to achieve higher educations to the level that he or she might desire. But then how will it function in a system that is not giving people that opportunity to solve problems? Before diplomatic missions are coming with this statement, a lot of stakeholders, Popular Action Party, other political parties, civil society organizations have come out to tell the government that to solve this particular issue of education, these are the practical steps.
But
create buffer zones.
Are they speaking to the government, or they are speaking to those the separatists?
I think they are speaking to both sides. Yes,
but
they are speaking to both sides, because the separatists insist that children should not go to school because they feel that the education system under which the children are going had been adulterated. And then the government, on the other hand, have not sufficiently addressed the problem, but want that the children should go to school in the same condition that they made a problem. So that is where the problem lies, because the nuance here is the fact that government has not sufficiently solved the problem and wants children to go back to school. You get it?
So what you're saying is until government solves the problem.
Not until. Meanwhile, they are seeking solutions to the problem. Children should be going to school.
What are you telling the separatists? Because you're talking.
No, they should allow children to go to school. That's what we have always said. That is what we have always said.
Now, the statement says over 700 children have been affected by the forced closure of schools in the 700,000
yeah,
by the forced closure of schools in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. For many, this is the 5th consecutive year of limited or no access to schools. These children have a human right to education, and their education will be vital in the ensuring the continued vibrancy in the Anglophone communities in the northwest and southwest regions. We, the undersigned, urge the stakeholders to respect the UN Security Council Resolution 2601 on the protection of education in armed conflicts and take bold steps to ensure that children can attend school in safety, to stop attacking schools, teachers, and children, to publicly support the right to attend school, and to hold accountable those who work to deny access to places of learning. So the message is quite clear, but how do we understand that it is these guys who are reminding on the need for children to go to school and for children not to be attacked, teachers not to be attacked?
Yeah, it is a beautiful situation, Mr. Leo. Let me get back to the issue of the schools, where they majorly these guys, the ambassadors, they started attacking the schools, carrying out absence on schools. I immediately knew that this was the beginning of terrorism. And you know, I usually say that terrorism is a weapon of the weakest. It is the weapon of the weakest. They didn't have to go that way. And then secondly, they started using children, school children, as pawns, which was something that is not allowed. And right now, for these diplomatic missions, representatives to come in, to me, I feel as if they want to school the Cameroon government on what they are not able to do. Because they are aware of that Article 26 of the 1948 UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which says that everyone has a right to education. And they come forward to remind the government of Cameroon about it. But I want to say that I hate diplomatic hypocrisy, because what they are doing is diplomatic hypocrisy. Their countries are in the position to help stop this nonsense in Cameroon. They are only spokespeople. They are only talking. They are making noise. For anything that they say here in Cameroon to who, water, they must charge your individual government. They must take their individual government to task. It's not an issue of coming to Cameroon and Yaounde and making noise. Let them take their individual government into task. Let the ambassador of the United States take his government into task. Of Canada, take your government into task. And then these governments will now be able to take the UN to task. Because there is a procedure to these things. It has happened in many other countries. In Malawi in 2011, it happened, whereby you found that these diplomats went back to their individual countries, and the individual countries had to charge the UN. And the UN had charged a representative of the UN in Malawi in 2011, and a true, national dialogue was organized. One of the best that we had in Africa. So what happened is that when a procedure is followed, everything will be done. And what is the procedure? When all these governments in Europe and America would have turned to the UN and asked the UN to solve the problem in Cameroon, they will solve. Rather than this hypocrisy they're doing in Cameroon, the diplomats are doing. The individual countries will tell the UN, charge your envoys, who is in Central Africa, I think it's Lansana Fall, that he should solve this problem and give him a clear line to follow. And there are 4 steps to this. First, There is the issue of consent. Secondly, there's the issue of timing. Fourthly, there's the issue of knowledge and relationship. And fifth, you need to have the issue of leverage. There is a procedure that they follow, Mr. Leo. It's not this noise that I'm making. They know exactly like this what follows. This noise that they make, they cannot change anything in Cameroon. Because it appears as if they are individual voices. Let them go back to their individual countries and tell them this is the problem that this country is facing. Children have not been to school, and this is a gross violation. If they really love the children in Cameroon to go back to school, let them charge an individual government to go to the UN. And when they must have followed these steps, because the first step I've talked about is that issue of consent. The country should accept that there is a problem and then they want to solve. The second thing is that they should not wait when it's too late. That is the issue of timing. You don't wait when it's too late before you come in. Because when you come in and you want to cry for spill milk, it is not, I mean, you will not bring back the blood that people have trampled on. I know they have used their political aspiration and trampled on people's blood. The third thing is actually the issue of knowledge, relationships. People have to come together as they have come like this, but coming in terms of individual countries back there. And then the fourth thing is the leverage. Now, who are those who are in charge of what is happening in Cameroon? Now, you realize that children are caught between crossfires. Who is the one who is responsible for this? And now we are going to pinpoint these people. I know they are ironically telling the government that there is a problem you have to solve, that you have to solve. Because if you have to tell somebody, first of all, it's the government that is supposed to be charged. And therefore, when this, the leverage we are talking here is that the UN is going to take Cameroon responsible for not being able to take care of children to go back to school, they are not able to protect children in schools in the Northwest and Southwest region. And now the government will try to be able to present its weaknesses. And there is always an issue of humility from the government when it comes to this level, because we have come to a level whereby humility needs to surmount. The government has to actually accept that this issue has gone beyond actually what they thought, and that the issue for children not going back to school for 5 years, it is a slap on the face of every children. It means that the government has failed in that 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They have failed, and therefore they need to submit. If it is aid, if it is assistance they are asking from anywhere, it is the time. If the government loves the people, love children to go back to school, it is the time to ask for assistance and ask the UN to assist them if they want.
Apostle Ambe, Valentine and Goa, what can we say pushed these guys to pen down this statement at this particular time? We are 5 years into the crisis, and they know that children have not been going to school. Why are they so concerned now?
It is their responsibility. And if they don't carry out their responsibility, they will look upon as a group of toothless bulldogs that only bark but they don't bite. Mm-hmm. They must definitely portray their relevance. Because if everybody is quiet and nothing is being said, it looks like even the hunter has become the hunted. In other words, people were looking up to as the ones that could bring solution to the problem are equally silent. These guys get up and they sit in a meeting in Yaounde, and they make declarations, they pen down things. What has not been penned down? Let us ask from the time this war started. Who hasn't written? Is it civil societies in Cameroon? Is it La Francophonie? Is it Commonwealth? Is it the US Congress? Is it the US Senate? Who has not penned down? And then a group of few persons. Are they stronger than the US Senate? These few persons. Are they stronger than the US Congress? These few persons. Are they stronger than La Francophonie or Commonwealth or the United Nations that is very aware? Are these few persons stronger than the American government that have spoken over this particular issue? Because when they are addressing...
But the US ambassador was there.
When they are addressing Anglophone crisis in Cameroon, it encircles almost everything the crisis is going through, is bringing in the nation. Mm-hmm. It's not only talking about the death of individuals. It talks about children's school, and that has been laid as emphasis in many occasions. These few individuals, who are a handful of people, gather in Yaounde, and they are penning down. What are they writing that has not been written?
Yeah, but they are representing their respective nations in Cameroon.
Mr. Leo, are you telling me that the U.S. ambassador here is stronger than the U.S. Senate? Are you telling me that the Norwegian ambassador here is stronger than the Norwegian Refugee Commission? Are you telling me that the British High Commissioner is stronger than Commonwealth that came under particular Scotland? Are you telling me that the French ambassador is stronger than the La Francophonie boss that came here? This is all political drama. I call it political hula ballo, political machinations. They should not be deceiving us. At least Africans have grown to a level where we should not be tossed to and fro like a football in a pitch. You cannot take an individual who is an insignificant figure in a nation to come and discuss issues that a body in a nation has discussed. How do you expect an American ambassador to be stronger than American Congress or or Senate? So to me, I believe that these people know that they are the world police. And if they stay quiet, it will look like the hunter has become the hunted. So they have to say something in order for the world not to feel like they too also are defeated and they are frustrated.
I'm asking about the motivations. Is it not also because of the videos that came out of Okoyong and the recent video of Bokova where children were stripped naked? And increasingly this is going, and they say, please, we are having the more of this, we should call for an end to it. Why don't you think it is because of that?
What repercussions has the video of Okoyong and that of Bokova as compared to the number of heads, babies, individuals who have littered the streets of Bamenda and Buea as corpses? Burning Okoyong, is it compared to the number of persons who have died? It's like we are trying to take a teaspoon to bring water out of an ocean.
Okay, you mean because those children have died, the right for children to go back to school to prepare for the future of the people of the Northwest is not important?
What right? That right has been there since. Okay. Isn't that they're trying to show others they know that right exists?
Yeah, docteur, yeah.
Oui, c'est important, mais je voudrais souligner quelque chose de très important pour que nous soyons très d'accord. Heureusement que vous l'aviez lu, le texte qui accompagne les représentants, que soulignent les représentants diplomatiques. Il est très clair. Je vais peut-être parler, il a parlé d'hypocrisie, moi je vais peut-être parler de langue de bois, parce qu'en principe, ce message est agressé aux sécessionnistes, pour dire aux terroristes, qu'ils essayent d'arrêter, qu'ils empêchent, parce que quel que soit, quand vous observez des endroits où il y a eu des guerres, il y a des femmes, il y a des enfants, il y a des domaines qui ne sont pas touchés. Et je crois que le minimum qu'il voudrait, c'est ce respect par rapport à l'éducation, qui est le droit fondamental. Et également, j'ai souligné ici à l'entame, l'État du Cameroun a mis tous les moyens, même au niveau de la protection, pour que ce droit fondamental ne soit pas balayé, pour que ce droit ne manque pas. Mais malheureusement, on a comme l'impression qu'à un moment, les séparatistes réussissent quand même, n'est-ce pas, à démontrer, entre guillemets, leur puissance, leur force vis-à-vis de la population, en s'appuyant ou alors en se retournant vers ces enfants innocents qui ne venaient que demander le savoir, ce qui est important pour leur avenir futur. Donc c'est effectivement de ça qu'il est question. Parce que si on va parler de l'État du Cameroun, moi, j'ai entendu mon frère qui vous parlait de la qualité de l'éducation, ce qui a commencé à faire problème. Et je dis, attention, je crois que 5 années plus tard, il ne faudrait plus qu'on revienne sur ce genre de problématique. Parce que lorsqu'on parle du droit à l'éducation, on n'a pas dit un droit à l'éducation francophone ou l'éducation anglophone. Droit à l'éducation. Quelle que soit la qualité de l'éducation, il est important pour un être humain qui a besoin de vivre dans une société. C'est de ça qu'il est question. Maintenant, l'autre élément qui va se poser là maintenant, c'est est-ce que l'État a donné un ensemble de conditions permettant à ces enfants d'avoir un accès à l'éducation? Et on va tous dire oui, parce qu'il y a une certaine protection qui a été mise sur pied, mais malheureusement les accords n'ont pas été respectés. Vous vous souvenez, rappelez-vous un peu avec le début de la pandémie à Covid-19, où l'OMS a même demandé un cessez-le-feu. Mais qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Les gars ont continué à faire leur sale besogne, malgré les conditions sanitaires précaires, qui étaient pratiquement une guerre bactérienne qui détruisait tout le monde, mais ils n'ont pas pu obéir. Donc je crois qu'en réalité, ces représentants s'agressent directement aux sécessionnistes. Il est important que tout homme politique de tous bords frappe du poing sur la table et reconnaisse qu'ils vont un peu trop loin.
Okay, but beyond, we are talking about the crisis. It is political. Now, this outing actually touches on the right to education. Can we not spare these children from the wranglings that are going on, the politics that is, because that is essentially what they are saying, that whatever the case, let the children go to school, because the future of a people actually depends on the children learning?
Mr. Leo, you know, we should be very honest to tell Cameroonians, the young people, and I started by appreciating what the representatives of diplomatic missions did. But then, remember, the right to education also enumerates in its details that people should be instructed in the language they best understand. And we all here know that has been a problem in this country, from the foundation of this country. You cannot go and teach people or instruct people in a language they don't best understand. Up till now, we still have problem in so many universities of questions set only in a single language. Up till now, even after the establishment of the Bilingualism Commission.
Yeah,
No,
je suis francophone, je veux souligner un élément.
J'arrive.
Permettez juste une seconde. Je vous dis.
Si vous pouvez me permettre de shooter, je shoot d'abord. Maybe I just...
No. I want us to stay within the confines of this topic. They are addressing the right for children to go to school. Even if we have to fix this, should children not go to school? Are you saying that until...
Children have to go to school, Mr. Liu.
Yeah.
No one is saying that the right of children to go to school should be disturbed by anyone.
Voilà.
I said we have made declarations of the Popular Action Party saying that the right of children to go to school should be respected by the separatists. We tell the separatists that their right should be respected.
Yeah,
but I am trying to say that
we have a problem. We have a problem. There is an Anglophone crisis that Cameroon is faced with now, whether we like it or not. And what you are explaining is part of it.
Exactly.
While fighting to turn this thing around, should children...
They should continue going to school. Children should keep on going to school. Dr. Simo was trying to redirect the blame on one side, saying that it is it's not a pinpoint. No, it's not a pinpoint, Mr. We are on a debate. And if we are on the debate, we should be permitted to also give our own point of view. Maybe she said something which I think the audience should be clarified, should be edified, which is not right. No, I have not even learned, Mr. Liu.
Should be ping pong now.
No, I have not even, because when you gave me this thing, I have not even spoken.
Go on.
Yes, I was saying that she said something here that during COVID-19, the Secretary General of United Nations proposed ceasefire in all, even World Health Organization plus UN, all of them proposed ceasefire. I think an arm of the separatist government accepted and recognized the ceasefire, but the government did not make any official statement to that. The government of Cameroon did not make any official statement to that, signed by a minister or any person in charge of the security forces in Northwest and Southwest. That is number one. Number two, you cannot say that the government has done everything. Where was the government when the massacre of Kumba took place? Where were the security forces? Because when school was resuming, government said that all the dispositions have been taken, just like you are saying so beautifully. But later on in October, just 1 month, few weeks after school resumption, we were in Kumba mourning children. And where were the security forces? Is it not the security force who shot the child in Boya? Is that the professionalism or what the security force is supposed to do? So now, when you saw that the government has put everything, it means that you are trying to lie to the people because they are seeing the contrary. The government has not done everything. Say that the government has done to an extent, to a certain percentage, but then there is still fault, there is still errors, there are still catch-ups. I will accept with you, I will agree with you, but you should not say they have done everything. Underline the word everything is a propaganda, it's lies that you're telling Cameroonians. So I just want Mr. Leo to permit us in this debate to be fair enough to say that if we are talking about the right of children to school, there is no right sounded human being, intellectual, that have gone to school to a certain level, having the ability to be given a platform like this to talk about education, and he will be saying that children should not be given the right to go to school. That's wrong. I am a witness of the fact that nearly all well-to-do families in the Northwest and Southwest who were maybe in the areas hard hit by the crisis, like Manfe, Kumba, and some other zones, have displaced their families. for one of the main reasons for displacing is for the purpose of education, for their children to have school.
Okay.
Which means that no one will even, at the level of the family, allow the children to be at home when they have the opportunity, the chance, the resources to make these children to go to school. But we should remember what these people say. Let the stakeholders, who are the stakeholders there? The stakeholder number one is the Cameroon government, who has failed, according to the responsibility of a government to protect its citizens, Because one of the fundamental responsibilities of a government is to protect its citizens. They failed woefully, and they are not even recognizing it. Mr. Dimancho talked here of humility. If we are talking of humility, can we associate humility with our government? It is all about arrogance, pride. The government has done everything. The government is doing everything. Why should we keep saying these things when we are seeing the contract and it's ruining our country on a daily basis, and we are just accepting it and keep on spreading this false information? So I just believe that we should have a focus.
C'est ce que je voulais pas, le ping-pong entre
oui,
vous.
Oui, Mr. Kum, je crois que juste une seconde pour essayer de mettre quelques petits points. J'ai bien envie de dire à mon confrère que si l'État du Cameroun n'assurait pas avec beaucoup d'énergie la sécurité des citoyens, nous ne serions pas ici en ce moment. Ça, c'est une évidence. Il ne faudrait pas qu'on s'accroche sur des petits manquements pour parler devant le grand monde que tout va mal. Ça, je dis bien, je vous en prie, je vous ai entendu avec beaucoup... L'anglais, je m'efforce à le comprendre. Et vous aviez dit avec énergie, le Cameroun, l'État du Cameroun a échoué. Voilà le mot. Et je vous rappelle en disant, si l'État du Cameroun avait échoué, nous ne serions pas ici en ce moment pour montrer qu'il y a une nette évolution. Et l'autre élément qu'il faut souligner, lorsqu'il parle de l'OMS au moment du début de la pandémie, où on demande de cesser le feu, et j'aime souvent poser la question, lorsqu'on vous cesse le feu devant des personnes qui n'auront jamais dû prendre des armes, dont vous êtes de ceux qui pensent que c'est l'armée qui doit se retirer avant que les socialistes déposent leurs armes. Non, soyons honnêtes et disons-leur la vérité, que ce que vous êtes est extrêmement préjudiciable pour nos enfants et pour notre avenir demain. Disons-leur la vérité.
Okay, Dr. Michael Dimancho, how do we get our children out of this brouhaha? Because it is a political fight that is being staged by some persons, but our children are completely innocent. How do we get them out of this?
To get them out of it, we need to get back to where we brought them. Where we brought them to where they are today. I think it's the right answer. To get them out of it, we get them back to where we brought them into this. And you know, there is this separatist leader, Akwanka, who made a statement, and he said, we are going to put down the schools so that the government should go down on its knees and come to dialogue with us. That was a statement he made when the schools started going down and attacking schools and whatsoever. So they wanted to use the children as their pawns. And therefore, the fundamental thing that we have to do here now is for dialogue. Now, let me bring you to this. Let our government and even those people who are making noise like diplomats convince us that they love Cameroonians and that they want children to go back to school. Remember, the right to education is the same as much as the right to food. During this period of crisis, how many of them have we seen back in the Northwest and Southwest region giving these children food? The right to education is as much as the right to good health. How many hospitals are functioning back in the Northwest and Southwest region? Or they are just actually desperately wanting the children to go back to school? Are you even sure that the children are still existing in the Northwest and Southwest region? Maybe they have died of starvation. Maybe they've died of, some kind of or mentioned illnesses. So we have to get the concern has to be whole, you know, the concern has to be whole. Let it not be as if somebody has a secret agenda talking only about school, because you want to project yourself at a level of international community that you have succeeded. Let us take care of these children. And actually, we have heard, you know, when I said diplomatic hypocrisy, I was looking at the way these government and international organizations have come to Cameroon and the kind of statement they are made. Remember, each time children are killed, you will hear somebody from the US say, we are deeply saddened. You will hear somebody from the UN say, we are deeply touched. You will hear somebody from the Commonwealth say, I mean, you know, they are kind of making statements upon statement, and their statements are not being backed with anything. preventive diplomacy is very, very important. And these people know there is nothing we are teaching them. And therefore, to make children go back to school, let us go back actually and look at ourselves in the face, because we are talking about dialogue, the kind of the Malawian dialogue that they had in 2011. The dialogue that was inclusive. And this dialogue was spearheaded by the UN envoy in Malawi. I mean, it was such an interesting and a beautiful kind of a scene, a moment to live by everybody who loves peace. And for us in Cameroon, to keep on thinking that the only thing that our children need is to go back to school. When they go back to school and the guns are not silenced, what happened to that? And of course, some children are braving the odds and going back to school. Let us not say as if children in North and Southwest are not going back to school. They are children who are braving the odds and are going to school. But we are saying that after going to school, what next? What is the future of these children that we are talking about? And I'm sure this is why some people have kept on hanging on. They have kept hanging on that, and they are asking themselves, yes, we will allow our children go to school. Are we not going to turn back to where we started? Let us be convinced that we are going to go back to school. Our children will go back to school, which of course is something that we are advocating for, because we do not be the first country, don't want to be the first country to violate that Article 26 of 1948 about everyone's right to education. Madam talked to you about education, whatever the education is. But I say no, it's not just any kind of education. Because if it was just any kind of education, the government would have accepted the separatist kind of education, where they talk about community schools. So, Madam, we should be very careful about what we say here. You can betray your government without knowing.
No,
let me finish. Yes, let me finish. So we are talking about formal education that has an international recognition. Education has international recognition because we live in a world of cooperation. Yes. So
vous pensez que l'éducation en langue anglaise est plus importante qu'en langue
française? Even if the education is your mother tongue, even if the education is your mother tongue, let the education be worthwhile, be something that you can write home about. If it is something that can be able to compare with another country.
J'appelle l'éducation de manière générale.
You see, they are taking over your
L'éducation de manière générale. Que ce soit en anglais ou en français, c'est l'éducation de manière générale. L'individu en a besoin, l'enfant en a besoin. Voilà. Ne distinguez pas.
Il faut enseigner les gens.
Even les deux, même les deux. Même les deux, puisque le Cameroun est bilingue.
Lui n'insiste. Non.
Le Cameroun est bilingue, donc les deux ont de la place.
C'est une hypothèse qui n'est pas vraie sur le plan individualiste.
Sorry.
On est individual plan, you are not very bilingual.
I cannot agree with you. Le Cameroun est bilingue. Éducation en français, éducation en anglais.
Est-ce que le chef d'État est bilingue? Si on veut parler du bilinguisme, le Cameroun est bilingue. Il incarne le Cameroun.
La preuve, je suis sur un plateau. La preuve, je suis sur un plateau avec vous parlant en anglais, mais je m'exprime en français et on se comprend. Voilà le bilinguisme du Cameroun.
Excuse me, is this the topic of today? This thing that you are doing?
Question.
Is this the topic of today? We are saying that children have not been to school for 5 years. What I want us to look at the possible implications of the fact that children are home for 5 years, because there are many. He says that he knows that those who are well-to-do have moved their children.
Yes.
I'm sure you know some persons who are in Bafut.
Of course.
The picture of Bafut, not too
very, very devastating. Very devastating. The atmosphere, there's insecurity. As a matter of fact, the repercussions of the lack of education is more on the poor. The poor man that cannot displace the child out of the locality where it's greatly heated by the war. The poor man that cannot afford means to relocate their children to other towns. The poor man that does not have a relative out or a relation out of the location where they have the crisis, the children are left with no children to stay back at home. Also, the fact that children have stayed at home for so many years, the anxiety and the desire to go to school has died. That's one other factor. Number two, children also who had the privilege to go to other towns should be writing O levels right now, while their friends whom they completed primary school with them have not started from 1. So we have a war in the future for those who have a deprived education. They're going to fight those who contributed to them not going to school and abandon their education as a result of the crisis. The educational stability, which we're considering Northwest as the hub of education, we used to say when you fail GC, O levels and A levels, go to Bamenda, you will pass. Bamenda has become a shadow because I was there 2 weeks ago. The roads are dilapidated. The streets are tattered. People are nowhere to be found. You could barely see human beings in the streets. 6 o'clock at most, everybody is asleep. The self-imposed curfew in Bamenda. It's not even the governor that imposed the curfew. The atmosphere tells you that you're not supposed to stay out by 6 or 6:30. If you stay, you're at your own risk. Secondly, education is a source of income. Much money was trooping into the northwest and the southwest, and many persons came to the north and the southwest. It was not just a place of mental growth, it was a place of economic growth, because the numerous schools in the north and southwest brought money, not only money in terms of paying school fees. Children who schooled there made businesses to expand. Hotels also expand. Other businesses, because the population that came, just like Buea now, other businesses are thriving in Buea because the university is there. Houses are being rented. Tenants are flocking into Buea. That's how it was in Bamenda. The repercussion of the war has affected them socially, it's affected them mentally, affected them psychologically, affected them infrastructurally. Also, institutions in Bamenda have transferred this way of the country, bought large pieces of land, erect structures, which means they are established, and they are not even intending to go back there again.
PSS was or is still at somewhere at Bonandale, but they just opened another campus somewhere behind here.
That tells you, that makes you understand that we are losing a lot in terms of the war when it comes to educational part. Not just children not going to school, economic is crushed. Social amenities, infrastructure, opportunities that we had there have been affected severely. Now, my challenge is this. We should not be dealing with a branch of a tree when the roots have not been dealt with.
Okay.
The educational fall is a byproduct or the effect or an outcome.
It's a consequence.
It's a consequence of something. Let us deal with that thing that caused this education, because initially it wasn't an educational problem. Lawyers needed change. Teachers needed change. The change of the lawyers and the teachers were tabled in front of the state. The state started solving this problem. But out of that particular challenge, something sparked out. Now, the effect of what sparked out is what is tormenting the education today, not even the worries of the teachers and the lawyers initially. So let us not go cutting the branches of a tree, knowing that if we don't kill the roots, the branches will still grow. All kinds of cosmetic measures have been put in place, which is like trimming the branch of a tree. There's going to be a little light. After some time, the branches will grow back, darkness will cover. These cosmetic measures put in place, we are sending security. The governor will come and say, you can go to school, the security situation is okay, and then people foolishly and excitedly go to school, only for unknown armed men to enter into school campus, wipe out children in Kumba. Before the children started having confidence to go to school, there was a communique that said you are free to go to school, the security situation is okay. That is a cosmetic solution. Trimming the branches of a tree gives temporal light. We are dealing with a root. What is a root? There is a crisis and an armed conflict on ground. I don't expect America, Norway, Britain to sit down and just talk passively about education as if they are not aware of what caused the education to halt in those regions. What I expected them to sit down and talk are measures on how to deal with the roots, which is the crisis, so that automatically the rest of the things that came as consequences or effects of the situation should fall in place. For instance, if I want this roof to go down, if I cut down the foundation of this thing, it automatically fall. Trying to remove the roof is a waste of energy. That's the reason why we are telling people to make sure that those people who are sitting in Yaounde go to the root of this matter, deal with it, the rest will fall in place.
Okay. Good evening. Your program is interesting. Pastor Wright is writing from Kumba. Good evening to you, Pastor Wright. Good evening to everyone in the studio. Okay. Good evening to you. Trying to say children should go to school and study. And study in a language they don't understand. Okay. Good evening to you guys in the studio. I'm very happy with the topic. Of today. What I have to say, the government is responsible for children not going to school, because you, as a good father or a leader, you must accept it to a mistake as build up your community. But the government wants to be right in all ways. Okay. But I plead to you that tell the government. Okay. Stop calling. When you call, it makes it difficult for me to read. Please, don't call. Please, Mr. Liu, tell the two gentlemen from the civil society and the people, okay, to calm down. They're too loud, okay? Zachary is writing from Kumbu. Good evening to you, Zachary, and to all of you watching from Kumbu, okay? Ntoko Rene says that, good evening, Mr. Liu and everyone on the panel. I want to begin by appreciating the great work you all are doing. The topic today is very interesting, and I would like to make a statement regarding that. I speak from the point of a researcher with several publications on these very subjects. That said, it is judicially recognized that every child has the right to education, but be it Anglophone or Francophone. This subject has an ocean of legal instruments in support of that, but let us face reality. Trying to point fingers towards the government or those in the bushes is irrelevant. Let's begin from the point of what is stopping the kids from going to school. Can we resolve that problem? If we cannot trash the main issue, everything we are saying is a waste of time and energy. I will support that by saying both parties involved in the crisis are not educated on the same laws we are invoking. Yeah. To what extent is the man with a gun out there taught on international humanitarian law? Okay. How do you expect people to stop doing what they don't see as wrong? Let's begin by educating all parties involved without pointing fingers. I wish I could say more, but there are many messages for you to read, okay? Yes, the issue here is the diplomats are talking from a judicial standpoint. They are well read, they understand what international laws actually says, but he is a jurist, he says, but how do you want people who do not understand that what they are doing is wrong to get your message? Est-ce que ce n'est pas ça aussi le problème?
Monsieur Léo, je continue à insister en disant l'éducation est l'élément important pour la vie d'un être humain. Quand on essaie, et maintenant, puisqu'on a une société qui est extrêmement dynamique, on va se rendre compte. Moi, je suis gênée d'entendre quelqu'un vous dire qu'on enseigne les enfants sur la langue qu'ils ne comprennent pas. Aujourd'hui, tout le monde est en train de vouloir apprendre le chinois parce que la société est dynamique, elle évolue. Et à un moment, on se rend compte que voilà une langue dont on aura besoin pour évoluer dans la société. Donc, l'enseignement est d'une importance capitale. Lorsque je parle de l'enseignement, je parle de l'éducation. Et je crois qu'à chaque moment, on devrait être en désaccord ou en désamour avec toute personne qui veut évoluer à l'encontre de cette discipline-là, de ce droit fondamental qu'est l'éducation. C'est très important. On va se plaindre du fait que j'ai par exemple dit sur ce plateau que l'État a pratiquement tout fait. Mais je continue à dire que l'État a pratiquement tout fait. Moi, ce que vous ne savez peut-être pas, je vais vous dire que dans les lycées, dans les villes approximatives, que ce soit les lycées, que ce soit les écoles publiques, que ce soit les universités, tout ce qu'on appelait aujourd'hui les déplacés internes ont la capacité de poursuivre les études gratuitement. Ça traduit simplement le désir de vouloir amener les enfants à ne pas perdre ce droit important que vous voulez sous-estimer aujourd'hui en disant sous prétexte que non, le système francophone a voulu influer sur le système anglophone. Mais l'État du Cameroun a mis des moyens pour que des enfants puissent être en sécurité. Mais malheureusement, dans un contexte de guerre où il y a des actions, ce qu'on appelle des zones d'incertitude, où il y a des actions qui sont malheureusement pas contrôlées. Mais vous convenez avec moi, par exemple, avec l'histoire de Gabou, où le chef d'État a condamné, où tous les autorités, l'État du Cameroun, même le Cameroun tout entier, chaque fois que ces enfants ont été attrapés dans les écoles, tout le monde s'est inscrit en faux contre cela. Donc personne ne peut se réjouir de tels comportements. Donc, il ne faudrait pas qu'on arrête à un moment, qu'on arrête à un moment de dire que c'est le gouvernement de Yaoundé qui voudrait que ça se passe comme ça. Non, parce que beaucoup de moyens sont déployés pour, peut-être les méthodes ne sont pas encore suffisamment intéressantes, mais des efforts sont faits et tout le monde l'observe chaque jour. Donc il faudrait quand même qu'à un moment, on regarde les séparatistes, les terroristes, moi je vais dire ça comme ça, et qu'on leur dise, voilà le mal que vous produisez à vos frères, à vos enfants, certainement par moment, et à votre famille. Pour ne pas dire à tout le Cameroun. Alors on vous exhorte à arrêter et à laisser au moins ce droit c'est-à-dire à la santé, parce que ce n'est pas seulement à l'éducation. Parce qu'après l'éducation, il y a un autre droit très important, basique, qui est également mis en exergue, le droit à la santé. Donc lorsqu'on commence déjà à brûler les écoles, à brûler les centres de santé, et vous trouvez quand même des moyens de justifier, pour justifier en disant c'est le régime de Yaoundé, je dis non, il y a un problème qui se pose.
Okay. Success, writing from Krivisi says, good evening, Mr. Liu. It's time to stop these lies and learn to be honest and let us out of this nonsense because our children are dying day in, day out. We are really suffering. My daughter is 17 years in Form 5, of which she was supposed to be in the university, and I am forced to enroll her in the dormitory after 2 years since she lost her father in the senseless war. I am suffering to raise 480,000 francs every year for her fees, of which I was supposed to pay 25,000 francs in GHS. Bafut, okay, that is in Apostle Ambe's village. Mr. Liu, our children are protected by God as they go to school. Government has not provided enough security. How many children have been killed on the way to school? Mami Bridget is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, Mami Bridget. Good evening to you, Mr. Liu. Samba from Tombe. Greetings, Apostle Ambe, my doctor, Dr. Simo. Okay. Education is the key if the luck is around. Okay. Good evening to all in the studio. Apostle Ambe, Ashao, more grace to your elbows. Try your best, my brother. Need cosmetics is writing from from Bomenda. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu and other. I wish to appreciate you for the job well done. Thank you very much. Now, Fabrice Lena, I want us to look at children in the Southwest and Northwest region. Many cannot afford to bring their children to Douala, where we are, to Yaounde or to Bafoussam. How do we, those who have been there, for example, you listen to the message I read where somebody says, I'm now paying 480 instead of 25,000. How do we ensure that even if, okay, we cannot understand on other political issues, let us spare children from going to school? Is there no way we can do that?
Well, there is a possibility, but this possibility have to go with it. Impossible for it to go without some kind of understanding with the stakeholders that are with the gun. You know, it's easy to dialogue with and make an understanding with someone when it's at the level of maybe you are a non-violent person, I'm a non-violent person, we are coming with paper and pen, you know, dialogue flows. But when one person is holding gun and the other one is holding pen, there are two on equal paths, because gun there is something that when it is pointed at the head of anyone, you are no more talking out of rationality, you're talking out of pressure, out of sentiment. And you know, the reality in these 13 divisions that cover Northwest and Southwest is that the poor are the one paying the price of the poor strategies of the separatists and the bad governance of the Yaounde government. The poor, why? You know, since 2018 to 2022 that we are, Mr. Liu, ask that all the IDPs in Bafoussam, in Douala, in Yaounde, in other parts of the country, spread all over the country, go to any office. Does the government of Cameroon have any office where you can have statistics of database of IDPs, internally displaced persons? Is there any support from the government apart from political propaganda, COVID-19 buckets that the organized people and give? I mean, a systematic support there in terms of education of IDPs, where, because in an organized country, in such a situation, if the government said they have done everything, I was expecting Dr. Simo to tell me that, well, there is a center for IDP registration in Douala, in Yaounde, in Bafoussam, where IDPs get registered, they get a badge, you can go there and receive subvention from the government, and with this subvention, you can go to a school, you can do this, you can do this, you can do that. But they are not existing, they are not anywhere. And then secondly, many have gone to Nigeria as refugees. Till date, I've not seen where there have been any statement about these refugees. Okay. What about their own education, whether formal or informal, that they are receiving from this place? Remember that Burundi and Rwanda are countries with a lot of cultural and religious similarities. The spilled over effect of the Rwandan genocide affected Burundi and vice versa. You get it? And that is exactly the situation between Nigeria and Cameroon, where children who are now in Nigeria, what will be the knowledge they would take back to the country?
Who is stopping children from going to school now?
Children, it is like Mr. Leo, the separatists have put a ban on children to go to school.
Yeah, because...
But it is not, we have to be honest, it's not all the groups. We know there are some groups that are for children to go to school. There are other groups that are not for children not to go to school. Now, apart from the separatists, because it is not a single factor thing, apart from the separatists, the atmosphere, because those who are going to school are going to school by grudging compliance. Let me just try, let me see, let me look at the possibility of surviving in this condition to go to school.
If they had the means, they would have moved this way also.
If they had the means, they would have moved this way. Others is because they don't just want to move this way. You know, there are some people that for cultural reasons cannot displace themselves.
Okay.
Because there are people in Northwest and Southwest that no matter the amount of money you give to them, they cannot move from where they are to Yaounde or Douala. They cannot live here. There are people like that. So the conclusion with this is that children's right to education is non-alienable.
Okay.
But at the same time, the government of Cameroon, under the management of the CPDM political party, have failed the citizens in the aspect of ensuring quality education, in ensuring that people should be instructed in their languages, in ensuring to respect the judicial and educational system with which the country is functioning.
You are a teacher now.
Yes, I cannot go and teach French when I cannot speak good French.
So the quality of education you are giving to children is not good?
No, Mr. Leo, how many children are graduating from? It is even the minister, was it Minister of Employment and what, who came out to say that
the quality is not good.
It is not good. The curriculum is poor. The curriculum is poor. And even if you want to go out of the curriculum, you cannot go out. They will tell you that you are teaching clandestine stuff. So
let me take some messages.
All right.
I love your temperament this evening. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The children not going to school are Anglophones, deprived by Anglophone brothers. Those relocating to French regions are indicating to the world that they rather live with the Francophones than, Andreas from Tico, if you write anything that is insultive, please, I won't read it. So don't waste your time writing. Anything that is insultive, I won't read it, okay? Good evening, Mr. Leo and panelists. I wish to say that the right to education of the children is the same as the right to live, okay? Oben is writing from Boya. Good evening to you, Oben. I want to thank those of you who just explained because some of us hear French, okay? You have Cameroon is a bilingual country. You have to learn it. It's true now. Julius Chofo, my friend, says, good evening, Mr. Leo. What people seem to forget about this conflict compared to others in which schools continue to function normally is the fact that education is at the center of this conflict. It is very easy in this conflict for one side to attack schools to make the other look bad. This is why it is imperative for those who claim to love our children more than us to address the root cause of the conflict. Okay, Julius, writing. Somebody just wrote that children are moving this way. I'm sure there are many of them who are studying in Yaounde, in Douala, and in Bafoussam and other places. And they're also learning new cultures now.
Of course. They're learning new cultures. And the question we are asking now is, the very thing we are running away from is actually what we are indirectly encouraging our children to inculcate, and to live in the future. I don't know how many years to come. Because people thought the crisis was just going to be something of 2, 3, 4 years, and it is gone. But crisis of this nature doesn't last for less than 25 years. Let people get it straight. And that, imagine that this crisis goes for about 25 years. the children who are down here, a child who came down here who was maybe 5 years, a girl who was 5 years. I mean, he has acclimatized with the Francophone zone, and perhaps eventually will get married to, I mean, the brothers or sisters Francophones. And what is going to happen in the next 10, 20? I mean, you now realize that we have run away from rain to fall in the sea. We need to be very careful that the very thing that we sought to bring solutions to is the very thing that is going to betray us. And because the separatists are supposed to be accommodative. Yes, they're supposed to be accommodative. Even though, as we have said, it is this is a crisis, and it is something of legitimacy, you know, because you cannot actually say with certitude whether the person who is driving these children away from the north and southwest are the separatists or the government. So we need to be very careful when we send accusing fingers to particular people, because we cannot say really with exactitude that this is what is happening. And therefore, we need to always study. We need to study this thing. And that's why it baffles me so much when something happens, immediately the government says it is the separatists who have done it, or the separatists say it is the government soldiers who have done it. I think that we need to be very clear on that. We are fighting a war of legitimacy, where you do one thing and you accuse the other person in order to gain credence, in order to gain credibility in the face of the international community. But then, the issue of our own people leading out from our region down to the region where we thought we have a problem, not really have a problem, but we had a problem with their education system. I think it is bad, because we are not sure of what education these children are having here. We are not sure of the kind of culture that the children are learning this way. And we think that...
So how do you even ensure that those who are teaching in the language that we...
Exactly. You now even see that maybe they're receiving a plan to be teaching them or to get them much more used to the culture the way they are actually harbored. So we need to be very careful. And that is why you ask a question about actually those people who need, formation. You need to know that, like the separatists, they need to be educated to know that in using guns or in using explosives, you don't just have to use it anyhow. You know, because we are shooting ourselves on the foot.
They need education on international law.
Exactly. Because there's one thing that happened in Darfur. Well, that a war, a crisis ends. People spend a lot of, so many years trying to, this explosive, trying to clean the land of this explosive, because the population is in danger. And then the question I'm asking myself is, the way that these things are being used, the explosives in the northwest and south, all those bombs are being planted here and there. Are we thinking about the future, even the future when we must have had an independence, how that is going to look like? I think that we need to be very, very careful. One of the best things that we would have loved to see is that we protect our people and we protect our land. In as much as even those, the Ambazonians, are not able to protect the people, and they leave the people go. Well, I would say things are gradually changing, Mr. Leo, and I hope that people are coming to reason. Because I remember the other day I traveled up northwest, and we met some of them who are saying, we want you people to come back to the village. We want you people, why are you running away from the village? And I think this is something progressive. This is something that is happening. It didn't happen at first, whereby, they were pushing people, people were just being frightened and whatsoever. So, but I think that the Anglophone community in Cameroon, they will have been very far today. Remember before 2016, in the music industry, how it was faring. Remember the film industry, how it was even coming up. A lot of things were coming up in the Anglophone region, that if we were there, if conditions were numbered today, we would have been a promised land, even for the Francophone. So I think that we should think about all these things that will have helped us to be able to surmount even the difficulties that we faced at that time. It's just that we didn't see far. If we saw far, I think that we'll have had some restraint in trying to be too categorical, about waging this war, this foolish kind of war that we're waging today, that many of us are even finding it so difficult and feeling very, very uncomfortable. Most of us will not be here. We will obviously be up there actually trying to support our own education. But Mr. Lena, it's not bad education. We had very good education and we were a reference. So don't say we had We had very good reference as far as education is concerned. Ministers in Yaounde used to send their children to Sacred Heart, to Lords, and all those places. I mean, if you knew that you were, I mean, somebody reputable in Yaounde is when your child went to an English school in the Northwest or in the Southwest region. I think that these were some of the things that we glorify ourselves on, but which of course today have become a shadow of themselves. And find people are wandering today, not knowing where to go. And I still insist on the fact that the government shouldn't think that education is the only thing that can salvage people from suffering. It is not only education. We have other issues. Like Mr. Lena said, we have not had any centers around where the government really feels that this is the children who have been abandoned and that we need to take care of them. I mean, do you need to then go to Yaounde to say, I mean, to Nigeria to set refugee camps before you think that they are actually refugees? These internally displaced people, they need help. But unfortunately, only churches are giving help. Only NGOs are giving help. Only individuals are giving help to these people. Let government show good faith and not only think about these children going to school.
The money was raised. We saw the Minister of Territorial Administration go.
And I hope that you saw the way the money was used.
Yeah, but good evening, Mr. Leo. Sorry, it's been long that I have not been able to partake in the program for some time. Education is a fundamental right. War or no war, our children are supposed to go to school. It's Mr. Wilbur Godwin writing from Yaounde. Good evening to you, Mr. Godwin. Good evening, Mr. Leo. You just asked who is stopping children from going to school. The answer is simply the separatists and the government herself. I think all of us know who shot a little school girl in Boya and Bomenda. We have also seen separatists attack schools. Yusimbom Suleimanu is writing from Ngaundure. Good evening, Mr. Leo and panelists. I strongly believe that the separatists are the ones stopping children from going to school. Let's be honest about this. Can the separatists not also provide security for the children if they want the children to go to school? Ernest, writing from Bomenda. Special thanks to Apostle and the Iron Lady in the studio. Okay. Good evening. Good evening to you all. Yes, rights respect is excellent, but the worry is in which environment would the rights be respected? Can agriculture be practiced in an erosion area without difficulty? We keep on hoping for the best. Ngala Divine is writing from Boya. Good evening to you, Mr. Ngala. Mr. Leo, it is shameful, okay, that the government cannot offer scholarship to IDP children. These children lack food, shelter, and are struggling to pay school fees, and somebody is saying government has done all, okay? Good evening to you, writing. This one says, we always miss one important thing. The right to live is more important than to me, okay? Marcellus, writing from Sang Malima. Good evening to you, Marcellus, Princess. G, writing from Yaounde, says, good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all in the studio. People should understand that to become wild, that they bring terrible instruments to school and don't even respect the teachers. Princess Gloria, writing from Yaounde. Greetings from Tasen in Queen Bamenda. Gando Clement watching. Good evening to you, Gando Clement. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The topic is really an interesting one, Mr. Liu. How I wish Cameroonians and Africans start solving their problems by themselves. I think it's time we start following this path in solving our problems rather than depending on the big nations who will only come to our aid when they see interest. Besides, their countries are in peace. I think the problem here is not only education, but accumulated problems coming from the background of European colonialism. Godlove is also writing from Bomenda. Special greetings to all of you watching us from Bamenda, Northwest Regional Capital this evening. Yes, this is coming from diplomatic representatives. Newspapers have carried it. We are discussing it. But this is what many persons in Cameroon have been talking about, the need for the rights of children to be respected. Why do we think that it is when Europeans, Americans speak that we should consider? Should we not start solving our problems from Cameroon like this person just said?
I'm sure a group of women once in this country, headed by Eddie Kambangwala, wrote to the U.S. Senate about what was happening in Cameroon. And I'm sure part of the worries of those women were that children were not going to school. So these bodies are not the first persons who have been complaining about children not going to school. Mm-hmm. We have sat on this platform and other TV platforms across this country. They have deliberated on the issue of children not going to school. The challenge we have is that it would appear we are not competent enough to handle our own things, or our voices make no meaning. Because the value of our voices will only be recognized when our own people begin to appreciate the knowledge and the wisdom we offer. They say charity begins at home. If we are not acknowledged here based on what we have been pouring on television every day and day in, day out, the government listens to us, populists listens to us, people from all nooks and crannies across the nations of the world listen to us. Our videos live here and go out, and people draw inspiration from those videos and better the situations in their own country. I have said it, and I'm still saying it. Until we begin to recognize what we have at home, nobody out there will recognize us. It will shock you that there are persons in this country that outsiders have recommended them to go and solve similar conflicts like this one. Yet our nation does not even see, recognize, or place value on such persons. What is the problem with us? The problem with us is that we don't know how to valorize what we have at home. Must a European Commission or an American ambassador sit to speak? You will never see Guardian newspaper or municipal update carry headline that Apostle Ambe said yesterday on my media prime, that education is a fundamental right to every child. But you will hear that diplomatic bodies sat in Yaounde. It's on the front page of newspapers in the country because they believe the word that has come out from Apostle Ambe's mouth last month, the word that came from Fabrice Lena's mouth last month, that same word, if it comes from a Norwegian's mouth, it is now seasoned with salt. It carries a special anointing. If Dr. Simo says it, it does not have weight. But if some nonchalant person from France that has a white collar says it, it will become à la une on newspapers. Why? There is no knowledge coming from America, Europe, Asia that has not been discussed here. As a matter of fact, Asian TV, American television, European televisions draw inspiration from things we do and discuss here to better situations in their own country. I'm not saying this as a sign of publicity. I've had calls in America, I've had calls in different countries where excerpts have been taken from this platform to teach in University of Dar es Salaam, University of Nairobi. You were on this platform, they called and said that videos that came from me were used in Cape Coast University in Ghana, University of Ghana, to teach in those universities. And here we have been singing this song and our own persons have no value. Does this presentation by this American ambassador and the rest of the persons that sat, is it new? What is new in what they just discussed? That's why I said I do not place value in what is discussed anymore. I might be saying if I don't have the power. If I had that power to enforce what I have been saying, Mr. Leo, I would have gone to action long. Cameroon needs action-oriented persons now, not people who come to explain theories.
Okay, but the fact that because they have been there for the past 5 years, they have not made this declaration, can we also say that it is the beginning of another era where they may now turn to their respective governments? Because the Senate in America sat, Congress sat, the EU Parliament sat, but now the ambassadors are sitting and then issuing a statement. Would this statement coming from them who are on ground not also expose to their respective nations the gravity of the situation on ground?
Non, ce que je voudrais qu'on retienne, et quoi je suis très d'accord avec lui, c'est que le désir, ou alors le retour des enfants, le retour au calme dans cette partie du territoire est demandé par tous les Camerounais, je vais dire depuis longtemps, que ce soit des hommes politiques encore responsables et citoyens, que ce soit des hommes de la société civile doués de sens. Donc, il ne faudrait pas qu'on pense simplement que parce que les représentants diplomatiques américains, canadiens, chinois et italiens ont dit et puis ça va faire foi. Non. Vous savez très bien également, et ça je vais vous le rappeler, qu'à un moment, le chef de l'État du Cameroun avait intimé l'ordre aux États-Unis, en Angleterre, de ne plus, n'est-ce pas, avoir entraîné des rapports avec des séparatistes, parce qu'on s'était rendu compte qu'il y avait une catégorie de séparatistes qui logeaient de ce côté-là, et puis le chef de l'État a demandé de couper les ponts afin que les transactions d'armes et tout ce qui va avec ne soient plus effectifs. Donc il ne faudrait pas que on soit toujours dans cette sous-estimation de l'État du Cameroun. Et là, il l'a très bien souligné. On a toujours l'impression que c'est quand l'Occident frappe du poing sur la table que les choses marchent. Non, vraiment, essayons de croire en notre chef de l'État parce qu'il a des stratégies et des méthodes que nous refusons personnellement de mettre en pratique. Et à chaque fois, on va dire, non, le chef de l'État a échoué. Parce que si le chef de l'État a échoué, ça voudrait dire que les sécessionnistes ont raison. Et nous savons tous ce plateau qu'ils n'ont pas raison et que qu'il y ait guerre ou qu'il n'y ait pas guerre, les enfants doivent aller à l'école. C'est un droit absolu, non négociable. Donc arrêtez de justifier. Et je pense même que c'est pour ça que nous, les hommes politiques, il faudrait qu'on soit très réservés dans notre manière de parler. Il s'agit de ces situations-là. Parce que lorsqu'on chaque fois on cherche des questionnements, on cherche des justificatifs aux actions, non, ils ne vont pas à l'école parce que ces séparatistes ont dit qu'ils veulent un dialogue. Ça leur donne de la force, ça leur donne de l'espoir. Il faudrait qu'on frappe du poing sur la table et on leur démontre que, quel que soit votre besoin, quelle que soit votre envie, les enfants doivent aller à l'école. Après ça, on va voir le reste. Donc, faites tout ce que vous voulez, mais que nos enfants aillent à l'école. It's an obligation, it's compulsory. On ne vous demande pas. C'est une obligation. Okay. Ce sont de justifier ces éléments-là.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. I think what is keeping students home is lack of empathy and love from both parties. And Mark, I'm writing from Germany. Good evening to you. Mark, good evening, Mr. Liu. I think the government knows what to do to solve the problem because all let them stop scamming their citizens. James is writing from the United States of America. Good evening. Panelist education is very important to our children. Let our armed brothers think of the future of these children and permit them study in order to build a great future, strictly in line with the statement by these diplomatic missions in Yaounde. This one is from my own uncle, Chrysanthus too, who is watching us from Mutengene. Good, greet the family, greet your wife, and especially Anne-Marie C. too, who is my daughter watching us, I'm sure, from Mutengene too. But now, these guys have spoken. Apostle Ambe think that we should believe more on ourselves. How do we get our children to school by Cameroonians?
Well, it means we are discussing, maybe advancing, but still coming to articulate on the same issues we've talked about already, because every Cameroonian wants that the children to go to school, but it's when it comes to you as a family, as an individual, that you will begin to experience the situation and you know you are on your own. Because what Dr. Simo is saying, I don't know if she is in the place of the mother of Enongene in Boya, she will be saying what she's saying here, because when it affects you, you will not say the same thing as someone who is sitting on the TV analyzing the situation on a global basis. What I'm saying here is that we have to tell the separatists that school is important. We are saying that. Everyone is saying that. On the other hand, the government said they have taken all dispositions between August 2021 to September, when school is resuming. They say all dispositions have been taken. But surprisingly, when school resumed, we discovered that separatists still succeed to carry out actions, killing children, if at all it is them, right? From the investigation, yes, if at all it's them.
Dites-leur que ce qu'ils font n'est pas bon. Dites-leur.
Yes, and
talk to them.
That's what I'm telling you, the doctor. And what are you going to explain to the parents of these children, the 7 children that were killed in Kumba? Because the children, the parents believed in the government. They believed in the activities and the workshops that were carried out in Kumba to ensure school resumption. They attended these workshops, they were given school bags, given flyers, but they end up, some of these parents are people that had only single children. They gave them the guarantee that there is going to be security, there's going to be this, there's going to be that, and what happened? They lost their children. So we are saying that, Mr. This is what we are saying. We are not here to encourage children to stay back home. As well as we shouldn't be here to say that we should give confidence and trust the head of state. We cannot trust somebody for 40 years. 40 years is half a decade. It's half a century. It's half a century. We have been trusting the head of state. We have been trusting the head of state. It is our trust in the head of state that has led to the Anglophone crisis.
Okay.
So we will not keep trusting again. You know, when you trust somebody for too long, credibility dies, and it makes you to be skeptical. Doctor,
it's time to give trust.
Even if you deceive your own child one time, and the child say, Mama, I understand. Second time, third time, fourth time. No. The child, when you speak again, the child says, my mother is like that. I know that when she speaks, she will never respect. That's our government. And then where are the resources that they are extracting from the citizens? People's pocket. So
let us be democratic here too now.
We are democratic, Mr. Leo. I think you gave her the floor, she spoke, and then and you also gave me, I spoke. So we are enjoying your moderation. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Our children are forced to learn new cultures, just as the Israelites were forced to sing the Lord's song in a foreign land. Pastor Simon, writing from Bamenda. Greetings, Mr. Kum. I don't think the greatest problem in this country is children not going to school. It is not as if the ones who went to school are any better. A country where freshly graduated medical doctors are striking for lack of jobs, where PhD holders are found under electric poles in strike for jobs. Okay, Dr. Nubia, writing from Bingo. Dr. Nubia, I thank God I went to school. And I pray everybody should go to school. You better go and not have the opportunities than stay at home. Good evening to you all in the studio. I'm Melvis, watching my media prime in Adamawa region. I wish to extend greetings to Apostle Ambe for all what he is doing. More grace to your elbow, Apostle. Receive your greetings. Good evening. And the team in the studio, for our children to go to school freely, educational free zones be created in the northwest and southwest regions where no armed nor military disturb the children with shootings. We need concrete dialogue to examine the root cause of the problem. Abong A.O., writing from Ekona. Good evening to you, Abong. Mr. Leo, good evening. We are in war, and for things to get to normal, the parties must go to negotiation table and dialogue, okay? Yes, but why that is coming? Why not allow the children to go to school? Good evening, Mr. Leo. I really want to ask, what is so difficult for the state to call for a real dialogue? Don't forget that most of the children have lost their parents. The state has to call for a reconciliation. Solomon is writing from Aboya. Good evening, sir. I'm watching from Mundemba. Good evening to you too. Hello, Mr. Leo. What is actually going on is the consequence of war, but we are where we are today because of bad faith in solving the Anglophone problem, okay? Etienne is writing from Bafusam. Good evening to you, Mr. Leo. Your program is amazing, and shout out to Apostle Ambe and all the panelists. They always deliver. Akame Efficients, watching from Nguti. Now, Doctor, the situation is quite complex, and we are looking towards next school year, and you're already projecting that we may run for the next 20 years if this problem is not solved. How do we survive? Is it not for us to project the possibility of having an entire generation wasted and have a rethink about our methods?
Well, we in this context now actually is ambiguous because there are some of us who are here who are surviving. Now, what becomes of those up there who are not able to survive? It's where the problem is. I would like to say this, Mr. Leo. I think that we need to speak truth to power. It is very important. We should speak truth to power. The point is even that some of us have started rubbing our tongues. And Let me tell you, I have tried to come out with an initiative, actually, to say that we become even radically taking the government to task. Not radical in the sense of negativity, but actually force and actually, repeatedly and actually insisting on government. But most people are more and more shying away from that. Either because they are afraid of the unknown or that there is something wrong. Now, secondly, early this week, there is a newspaper who came out with a list of people who have benefited from this crisis. And they are prominent Anglophone leaders who, and the papers is trying to believe that these people are where they are because of the Anglophone crisis, and they have been feeding fat where they are. So I think that many of us, we are hypocritical in the way what we are doing. It appears as if when you play against the Anglophone crisis, even if you do that holistically, you are considered as the right person, maybe somewhere in Yaounde. And that is why some people, when they fight hard against even what was right, what is even the right of people to ask for, they are promoted in their place of office, which is not correct. And when we are promoted, we keep quiet, we seal our mouth, like they say, the mouth that eats doesn't talk. Now, how do we progress? How would the Anglophone, the crisis stop? It will never stop if we have this kind of habit from people. You remember that the moment that the Anglophone elite turned their back on this issue of the crisis, things have degenerated. Because if every Anglophone elite stood his ground to say that this is really what we want for the Anglophone people, and that we are fighting for the right of those people who cannot even live out of the Northwest and Southwest region to go somewhere to school, things would have been much more different. But what do we get? We get people who are sitting in their comfortable places and they are really trying to downplay even on things that they are supposed to speak to power. They don't speak. People keep quiet. And therefore, what we are putting is not even an issue of sacrificing this generation. There's nothing about sacrificing this generation because, as I said one time, if what has happened during this period, starting from 2016, didn't happen, know that even after 20 years would have happened. Remember that Anglophones have all been talking about time bomb, time bomb, time bomb, time bomb. And if it was incumbent that something was actually, that something was supposed to happen. And if it didn't happen now, it will have happened sometime in the future.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Some panelists are encouraging the activities of the separatists so as to stay irrelevant. People find it easy to castigate the government because they know that talking against separatists will make them targets. School is a good thing, and separatists should be condemned with the last energy. We may live in some 15 years' time to like South African blacks. If schools are not going on, it is because of separatists. Full stop. Stephen Mwambo is a member of our forum. He's watching us from Boya. Good evening to you, Mola. Hopefully we'll see on Saturday. Mr. Liu, there was once an insecurity issue here in Sangmelima, and I was amazed at the speed parents left their homes to fetch their children from schools. This alone tells us that life is most important than education. Marcelle, still writing from Sangmelima there. Good evening to you all in the studio. It's funny for some persons to talk the way they talk on your platform. George is writing from Bomenda. Good evening to you. CY International, my own brother from Boya, says, good evening, Mr. Liu, and greetings to Apostle Ambe. CY International here just to say I'm watching you live from Kwakwa. Good evening to you, CY. I hope you're going to be part of our program next week. Many persons are asking where you've gone to since your last appearance on this program. Good evening, panelists. The main issue is that education has been completely politicized in this conflict. We should stop beating around the bush. What happens is that when schools resume gradually, the government uses as propaganda that they are winning the war, okay? Mario is writing from Yaounde, okay? Good evening, Mr. Liu and everyone in the house. Mr. Liu, going back to school is not the problem. What Apostle is saying is the ultimate solution in this nation. Stone Art is writing from Douala. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and special greetings to my brother Fabrice Lena. This topic is very sensitive, and a right-thinking person must give it a fair treatment. Pointing fingers will further kill the future of our children. It's high time we seek a way forward. Derek Wala is writing from Chang. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I do appreciate all the wonderful work you all are doing in the studio. This program is very instructive. I wish to tell some people in the studio, yes, we want our children to go back to school, but how safe will they be when they go to school? Waters is writing from Boya, Apostle, Ambe, Valentine. While we are left with 20 minutes to discuss our second topic. Are you also worried, like many, that the prices of basic commodities in our markets keep rising?
Yes, Mr. Liu, I'm very, very worried, and that has to do with the government policy. You know, I'm a very fair individual when it comes to addressing issues that have to do with the state. I will always go back to other countries that are brotherly countries to us to ascertain things. One of the things that caused Ghana to be very, very poor around the 60s and the 70s was because of there was no price control unit. And when John J. Rawlings came to power, one of the things he did, because the Ghanaian cedi was experiencing inflation, that you needed at least 10,000 francs for 10,000 Ghana cedi for a taxi drop. So when he came, the first thing he did was that he instituted a price control unit and sent a team in the market to control the activities. And our own system of economy is too loose. A bag of flour rose from 16,800 to 23,000 recently, and it was heard over the news that those who are producing bread said that the price of bread will not change. The prices of bread might not change, but the quantity of bread will change. Nobody will have increase in the prices of flour and still have the same price of bread without the quality and the quantity not changing. So I have always studied the price unit system in this country. We have a very loose price unit system. There is no particular body that goes into the field to enforce the tariff. This country is one of the countries where proprietors, or private sectors owners are the ones who determine the price and the salary. There is no barem and there is no particular tariff put by the state that you cannot pay an individual below this amount. Somebody goes to the university, comes by, is teaching in a school and is earning 25,000, of which the government was supposed to put at least that the least you can pay somebody if you want to employ them is 50,000 francs, that balance. John Ray Lawrence sent people into the field. If this phone, according to the Ghanaian price unit, was 50,000 and you sell it for 56,000, they close down your shop and deal with you. But we live in a society whereby the price is not controlled. This phone is sold in this shop for 30,000. The same phone is sold in another shop for 35,000. Thereby, the increase in the prices is also the weakness and the lack of control by the government. On the other hand, we have incurred so much debt in this country by virtue of what we are going through, and we are heaping the load of that debt upon the consumers. The increase of prices in commodities in this country is to recover finances that have been borrowed to carry out, one, the crisis in the north and the south, and secondly, to the AFCON that we hosted. This sudden increase of prices, both in tariffs.
But the government has been also fighting the war in the north with Boko Haram.
Of course, the load has increased with the burden of the AFCON that came again. How do you explain that we are now paying transfer for money, we pay with percentage, we withdraw? There is a yoke on the government neck that it has transferred upon the consumers.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu and all in the studio. The right for education is a subset for the right for life. Please, those holding the guns should kindly give our children a chance to live before looking before. Books should be part into the children. Tam is writing from Fuka. The message is not too clear, Tam. Hi, Mr. Liu. It is a pity, but the government would never dialogue with the separatists who cannot even dialogue among themselves. I'm John writing from Germany. Good evening to you, John. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the vibrant panelists in the studio. Kudos for the wonderful work that all of you are doing. Apostle Ambe had just clarified the fact that prophets are not respected in their hometown. Okay. Emmanuel is writing from Bafoot. Good evening to you. Ambe Emmanuel, oui. Est-ce que vous êtes aussi inquiet? Est-ce que ce qu'il vient de dire, c'est aussi vrai? Il n'y a pas un suivi, il n'y a pas un monitoring, chacun fait comme il veut?
Non, je vais peut-être parler sur la logique de suivi, mais inquiet parce que le panier de la ménagère a pris un coup, ça tout le monde le sait. Je crois qu'il faudrait être extraterrestre pour ne pas le reconnaître. Nous sommes des femmes, nous allons au marché et on se rend quand même compte qu'il y a eu beaucoup de changements, de transformations et du coup, soyons honnêtes, ça ne va pas, ça ne va pas. Mais en même temps, il faudrait qu'on essaie de regarder beaucoup plus loin et on va se rendre compte que l'une des premières causes, oui, je vais revenir peut-être sur un point qu'il a souligné, mais l'une des causes, c'est que les zones où le sol était beaucoup plus perméable sont en difficulté, c'est-à-dire la partie du nord-ouest et du sud-ouest. Nous savions combien de nourriture cette partie-là renvoyait au reste du Cameroun. Il y a le Grand Nord. Nous savons ce que cette partie renvoyait comme denrée au reste du Cameroun. Aujourd'hui, on se retrouve avec une bouteille de 1,5 litre d'huile rouge à 1500 francs pratiquement, ce qui se vendait à 650, 750. Mais ce qui devrait attirer encore plus notre attention, c'est cette irrégularité au niveau des prix. Vous vous rendez compte, à Douala, l'huile rouge dont je vous parle coûte 1500 francs 1,5 litre. Ça dit 1000 francs 1 litre. Mais j'ai eu la chance de faire un tour ce week-end du côté de Consamba et je l'ai acheté, j'ai acheté tout, pratiquement 20 litres à 13 000 francs. Ce qui revenait à 650 francs. Ça veut dire que
chacun fait ce qu'il veut.
Justement, et c'est là où je rejoins son hypothèse en disant, je crois qu'il faudrait que le ministre du Commerce soit interrogé sur la question. Là, je suis d'accord avec vous. Il y a quelque chose qui ne va pas. Quand j'ai commencé à l'acheter à Douala, à un moment, je me suis dit, depuis, je crois pratiquement depuis décembre, je me suis dit non, peut-être il y a une flambée, oui, des activités. Mais quand je suis descendue au village, je dis, attends, qu'est-ce qui se passe? Moi, je m'attendais qu'on me dise 20 000, 30 000. On dit non. C'était avant 12 000. Avant 12 000, 20 000. On me dit non, ça a augmenté. Je dis c'est combien? On me dit c'est 13 000. Et rapidement, j'ai dit donnez-moi. Et puis quand je m'assois, je dis 13 000, 20 000. Je fais le calcul. Il revient à 650. Et je me rends compte, quand j'essaie un peu d'observer les mouvements, les transactions des femmes qui vendent, je me rends compte que c'est justement dans le nord, dans le Mungo, pardon, que les femmes viennent acheter pour venir à Douala et vendre à 1000 francs, 1500. Donc je crois qu'en principe, et là nous sommes d'accord là-dessus, le ministre du Commerce devrait s'arrêter un instant et réguler ses prix sur le marché. On a comme impression qu'aujourd'hui, à Douala particulièrement, on vend, je ne sais pas si ailleurs c'est pareil, mais à Douala, on vend à la tête du cherche du client. C'est-à-dire, lorsque le client entre, oui, c'est docteur Simo, non, non, il coûte 50 000. Et puis quand l'autre vient, non, non, c'est monsieur X, non, il coûte 20 000. Non, qu'on soit sérieux et qu'on essaye, n'est-ce pas, d'accompagner, de vendre. C'est vrai que le commerçant est là pour un intérêt particulier, nous sommes d'accord, mais il ne devrait pas avoir l'intérêt sur le corps du reste de la population, on va le dire. Donc, vivement qu'une nouvelle politique commerciale soit mise sur pied et que le ministre du Commerce essaye de réguler, d'asseoir suffisamment un contrôle important pour réguler les prix sur les marchés. Généralement, si vous me permettez, généralement, les sanctions sont annoncées, des contrôles sont annoncés, mais j'ai comme impression que aussitôt, ils sont venus, ils sont repartis, que les gars remontent avec leur prix. Donc, je crois qu'il faudrait simplement qu'on développe...
Qui ne vient pas aussi chercher quelque chose?
En fait, j'ai déjà vu, je les ai vus à l'œuvre sur le travail. Ils viennent, ils contrôlent. C'est comme si ce sont plutôt les commerçants qui évoluent en fonction de leur arrivée. Et je crois que vivement, il faudrait que le ministère du Commerce développe une stratégie pour faire asseoir, n'est-ce pas, une certaine équitabilité au niveau des prix sur le marché.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. The program is interesting. I think the government has the mandate to stop the war and schools will resume without hesitation. Tiba is writing from Bonaberi. Good evening to you, Tiba. This one reads, good evening, Mr. Kum. Greetings to all in the studio, especially Prophet Ambe. Extend special greetings to She Pius Vela watching from Kumbo. Good evening to you. They call you Prophet. I don't know whether they have added your rank. Good evening, Mr. Liu. No, Apostle is a bigger rank here. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and all of you in the panel. Apostle Ambe is God sent to this nation. Let the government take him to advise them on the way forward. Claudius is writing from Limburg. Good evening to you, Claudius. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Some panelists in the studio don't want the crisis to stop. Let them tell the separatists to stop attacking schools and children. I equally differ with the panelists who is okay but fails to see the future effect of children not going to school. Ernest is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, Ernest. This one says, hello, Mr. Liu, I hail the program, but I must tell your panelists to learn to call a spade a spade. If you want to address the issue of the stop of school, send it directly to the separatists. But some of you are talking of ways forward in solving the crisis. Talk to the government, okay, which also involves you and I, and not only Mr. Bia, but all of us. Talking of security, if we do not cooperate with the security to report the activities of these boys in the bushes, we will still have them surprise our children in school, since the military will not be available everywhere and every time. Kejem Felix School is writing from Kumbu in Bui. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Dong Judith watching from Gusi. We all want children to be educated. As it is said, destiny can only be delayed but not changed. Going back to school is not the problem, but their safety is what we should be talking about, I guess. Okay. Now, Fabrice Lena, he has raised very, very salient concerns, as well as Dr. Simo. But where are consumer trade unions? We see some of them talk all the time. This is the time we needed to see them in action. Where are they?
Mr. Liu, avant de répondre à tes questions, je voulais juste dire quelque chose en français pour dire que Dr. Simo a vraiment confirmé à nous tous l'échec de ministre des Commerces qui est partant du gouvernement au pouvoir et le parti au pouvoir. Parce que si aujourd'hui on voit augmentation du prix des choses, la vie, coût de vie est très cher, Douala, Yaoundé, dans les villes au Cameroun, c'est parce qu'ils ont échoué dans leur politique économique, dans leur politique de comment faire la vie et comment faire que les citoyens vivent mieux. Donc, that is just a comment that I wanted to make in French because I want to also say it. No, you're not answering. I just make a comment.
C'est pas échoué, mais un manquement. Je vais simplement rectifier.
I just make a comment.
Moi, j'ai parlé de manquement, pas d'échec.
At least when someone make a comment, you
vous
must not
avez dit,
respond immediately.
Docteur a reconnu l'échec, le manquement, pas l'échec.
C'est l'échec.
Il y a un manquement.
Le manquement là, c'est l'échec. That's a blunder, a big economic blunder.
Voilà, only. Good.
Good. So what you need to know is that Doctor confirmed the failure of the Ministry of Commerce and the party in power in ensuring that citizens enjoy the natural resources that they have in the country.
No. Doctor spoke. Everybody heard now. You are now interpreting what.
No, I'm not interpreting. I am simply.
Non, très mauvaise interprétation, malheureusement, et c'est très dangereux.
I'm simply.
Il y a un manquement et je le souligne.
Everybody heard. Now you are now assisting.
Bon, vous êtes devenu sourd.
Explain to
if I should go back to your question.
You have already taken 2 minutes of your time.
Let me just go back to your question. You said that where are consumers trade union? Consumers trade union are absent because we function in a kind of economic system that is supposed to be mixed. On the paper, Cameroon's economic system is a mixed economic system that is supposed to be laissez-faire plus plan, which makes it mixed.
Yes.
And in this kind of system, the government regulates excesses of both producers, consumers, and external bodies that bring in goods in the country. But we have come to realize that corruption, clientelism, and connection and all the vices we know that is accompanying the government in power has also transferred itself into the sector of the market. And when people come to collect tax in the market and the businessman say, Massa, hold this thing and go, just like in other sectors, the guys come there and they don't do anything, and at the end, what happened. Many, like what Apostle said, you go to Yaounde, I have discovered that there are so many things in Yaounde that their prices are different in Douala. So many things that their prices are different in Limbe. So many things. So we are in a country where each town has its own cost of living the way it is, which is in a nutshell something that the government has failed, because it is the responsibility of a government to put checks and balances. Let me take a simple example. Look at the agricultural sector in this country. There are how many tractors in the South region that were bought for the agro-revolution program? Where are the tractors today?
Ils sont là.
And then what are they producing? What is the output? What is the output of the
Mais
yield?
ce que vous oubliez lorsque vous parlez de corruption, c'est vous qui êtes corrompu. C'est vous qui êtes corrupteur. C'est pas le gouvernement. C'est vous.
Le gouvernement
c'est toi qui corrompt, c'est toi qui es corrupteur.
Non. Government have the responsibility.
La corruption, c'est qui? C'est le gouvernement qui est corrompu.
Non, mais c'est le gouvernement qui voit, qui fait le suivi. Si le gouvernement manque de faire le corruption. Non, si le
c'est le gouvernement qui fait la corruption.
C'est lui qui fait la corruption.
C'est le gouvernement qui est corrompu en même temps.
C'est le gouvernement qui
a échoué. Corrompu, corrupteur.
Il a échoué.
Je dis bien,
il a échoué de faire le suivi. Tant que celui qui est au pouvoir, qui est nommé ou élu, ne s'assure pas de ses responsabilités, de faire que celui qui vend les choses à 100 francs ne peut pas vendre à 110 francs. Il a échoué. Fabrice. Mais ça, c'est ce qui se passe au Cameroun.
Fabrice, okay, Cameroon is bilingual. Thank you.
But she, Mr. Leo, she keeps interrupting my analysis. I'm not even develop what I wanted to say, and then she called me off, and I did not even laugh. I said I wanted to say that. I wanted to say that. I wanted to say that in the agriculture sector, Mr. Leo. I wanted to say that in the agriculture sector.
Apostle, you need to. What's happening? I give you time to talk. You are conversing with Dr. Simo, and you still want to talk.
Dr. Simo is interrupting me, and you are allowing her to interrupt me because I'm supposed to develop my point.
You are talking about Dr. Simo said that. Dr. Simo said that. Dr. Simo said that.
You are trying to let me.
I asked a question about trade unions.
We are trying to educate.
I asked a question
but if she says something as a representative of a political party, which is not
why not just
right.
answer my question now?
At least
Fabrice.
It's a debate. Which means that if she says something I think is not educative, as a party in power, I have the right to refuse.
Okay, that's why she's interrupting you.
And that's why I am saying that permit me also learn. So that in each point, we should go home fairly. We are in a democratic society.
Doctor has to talk, and we have just 3 more minutes. Good evening, my media prime. I wish to ask this question. To those talking in favor of separatist fighters, which is shocking, can the people not act for their interests if terrorists take the future of children hostage? Can conscious people not collectively check this? Education with or without jobs is a fundamental right, and for no reason should it be compromised. Tonga Mantung has been exceptionally progressive because the people discovered uselessness of the armed struggle and have constituted vigilante groups and barred their routes from armed separatists. Others can do same. Bernard for his writing from Yaounde. Good evening to you, Bernard. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I really appreciate the good work you guys are doing. Bana Sema Ivo, writing from Bonaberry. Okay, they want children to go to school after banning schools and used some as their base. Okay, James is writing from the United States of America. Good evening to Mr. Liu. Tell Apostle Ambe that I got really not happy with his attitude last night on how he treated the SDF panelists.
I'm very sorry about that.
Okay.
Yes, I apologize to viewers of my media prime about my attitude yesterday. It was really poor. I'm sorry about that.
Pius is writing from Limbe. Pius, Apostle Ambe is saying that he's sorry for what happened last evening. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Special greetings to the inspired man of God with wisdom, Apostle Ambe. The solution to the crisis is very simple. As ABC, let the government release the people. Okay. Stanley is writing from Boyo. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm with, especially with the private sector, you can work for 60 hours a week, but not able to get 50,000 a month. Jodune is writing from Douala. Okay. Apostle says with his buys your idea. Mr. Leo, good evening to you all. It's our in Bamenda. It is a terrible thing for government to let prices of basic commodities like salt, soap, oil, etc. to go up in this way. The government better should have shifted the tax to alcoholic drinks if she is desperately in need of money. Okay? But is there a price on salt? And but are Cameroonians not just exploiting other Cameroonians?
You may call that exploitation.
For example, she talks about palm oil. Is there a tax on it?
Well, there may not be a tax on it, but there is...
on palm oil?
Yes,
okay.
There is indirect tax, but there's also the issue of transportation. You may also take that into consideration.
Other factors,
other factors, they after come into play, you know. As we say in Cameroon, Ambe, Madame said, we live in a free economy where you put your own price, you put your price tag. Yes, and nobody comes to control you. I mean, you are free to. I mean, it's just like in the job market. Salaries and the private sector are negotiable. There is no particular salary for this particular grade of person. No, you go and negotiate your salary with the director. He can decide to give 50,000 francs to this person with the same qualification and give this one 25,000 francs. It is normal in Cameroon. And therefore, they take it like that. It's just like in the job market. So it is the same thing. So we need to know that a lot of factors come into play when these things are. I mean, you even see, we are talking about price of things increasing. Let's look at custom clearing. You know, how much do people pay with the arm twisting and the bottlenecks and also when you want to clear a good at the port? There is no fixed price. The fixed price depends on who you know at the port and who is doing your clearing. Sometimes there's a lot of what they call is zakote that you pay. And when you pay all those zakote, you come back. You want to be able, the consumer has to pay the price of what you are paid in the port. So that because there's no fixed price of what you do. Okay. People, there's a lot of backdoor. And business people too, they create a lot, they connive, you know. People of the same sector, they connive to be able to extort more money from people. So, you know, and another thing is that they create scarcity. You know, because you want to make much money. It's the artificial scarcity. So there's a lot of things. The only thing is that we are saying that our government has failed in this domain. They should get up. They should sit up. And you see, even what we call the consumers union, it's a wing of the government. A consumers union is not supposed to be a wing of the government. They are supposed to be independent. So when it happens, they hit their hand on the table and say, it will not happen. It will not happen. But you see the president of consumers union going around with the minister of commerce and putting off his shoulders and making as if he has become that conquistador. I mean, they should be very careful. I think that we need to change this country. We need to change it.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all the panelists in the studio, most especially Apostle Ambe, Valentine, and the others. And if the government can bring back the trade unions like the marketing board, and we will live a healthy life. Mustafa is writing from the United States of America. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Enough preachings have been done on the issue we all know. Like Apostle Ambe said, and I stand with him. It's time for action. Okay, you're writing from Douala. Mr. Liu, it's a horrible situation. My cry is the farmers. The government of this country should wake up because the agri sector is in tears. Can you imagine the price of fertilizer is already witnessing a 60% increase? Prices of produce is falling daily, but farming inputs are skyrocketing. Let the government be wise before we witness the nationwide economic strike. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Thanks for educating these educative topics you and your panelists are handling. It is unfortunate that our government have abandoned us at the mercy of unscrupulous businessmen and women. The difference does not exist from town to town. You will not believe that a kilogram of barfish sold in one part of Bamenda at 1,600 francs is sold for 2,000 francs in another part. Farm inputs labeled not for sale are found on shelves being sold. Our government is not helping her citizens. Pastor Simon in Quen, Bamenda, good evening to you, man of God. Hello, good evening to you all. I'm Baby Equalizer from Ekundu. Titi, good evening to you. Watching us from Ndian Division. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I hope you should be a good moderator by stopping the co-lady panelists that disturbed the others. Okay. Ziyu is writing from Bamenda. I'm sure we have had just 20 minutes to discuss this. We should come back to this price increase issue next week. We're going to be revisiting this topic. Dr. Simo, thank you for coming.
Oui, c'est un plaisir, mais permettez-moi simplement de dire que, cessons de dire le gouvernement, changeons notre comportement. We have to change our behaviors. It's important.
Okay, we have to change our behaviors. I'm sorry. You love saying that. It did not end with that.
C'est bon, you have to change it. Because every time we say c'est le gouvernement, ça donne l'impression que nous sommes bien, nous n'avons rien à dire. We have to change and to be very patriotism. That is why we call.
Yeah, very patriotic.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Apostle Ambe, thank you for coming.
Yes, let me take this opportunity again to apologize to the viewers of Prime Hour. My misbehavior yesterday. I was hot. I'm a human. And sometimes this emotion will just carry you to act somehow. But I'm very, very sorry about that. I pray to maintain my calm on this platform when I'm delivering my facts. Thank you very much.
Okay, we also want to say thank you, Fabrice.
Thank you, Mr. Leo, for inviting me once more. I'm grateful for the program. It was a great exchange. I want to say I learned a lot from the other co-panelists. And to say special thanks to Bana Sema Ivor, the manager of E-Lodge in Bonaberi, for staying put throughout the program to watch us. Thank you very much, Mr. Leo, for having me in the program.
Why is the manager not advertising E-Lodge here?
Manager, Mr. Leo is here. He's surely going to advertise E-Lodge with you. And in fact, I'll give you his contact because he has packages for you. In fact, after program, I will tell you.
Okay. We also want to say thank you to you, Doctor.
Okay. Thanks so much, Mr. Leo. And just to say that sometimes it's very difficult to thrive through in a debate with political politicians. Sometimes, I just have a word of advice. Please don't argue to win. Argue in order really to bring Cameroon to a better place. You know, we are talking about solutions in Cameroon, but when we begin to argue to win, it becomes really problematic.
Okay.
Because yes, I mean, because I've had issues whereby some people finish debate on some platform and they come out and say, "I shoot him, I shoot him, I shoot her." So I don't think that is actually the way that it should be. It should be to give actually the government proposal. So thanks so much and greetings to all the civil societies who are honest and true to them.
Okay, we want to thank you all who took time off to watch this edition of the program, especially to you, Eli, who is producing the program, and Desmond, who is behind the cameras. Also to the broadcasters, we say we are very grateful. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.